right. Thanks, Jonathan. So it looks like we have a full house. A lot of people interested in truffles, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Who has had a meal with truffle flavor in it? Oh, yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Great. That is fantastic.
So I have to ask the question, how many of you actually go out in the woods and were aware that that you were maybe walking on truffles? Wow, you guys, well, the word is out. Because
where have we been?
I mean, he's in the woods for like 50 years, and we only learned about this in 2021. And we were like, those are the things our dogs were eating.
Oh, wow.
We always were wondering what they were digging and what they were eating, and we couldn't figure it out. And their breath sort of smelled different. And we knew it wasn't, deer waste or any of that. So
well, we weren't sure.
We weren't sure. But that's pretty good. I mean, the word is out, I guess. But yeah, native truffles are here and they're here to stay.
Yeah, and they love Douglas fir. The truffles that we use for flavoring are associated with Douglas fir. They've evolved into a symbiotic relationship. The root hairs on a tree only go so far, and they need to go further. So over time, the mycorrhizae of the truffle will grow into the root hairs, and other fungi will do the same thing. But it increases the surface area of the roots, drastically. Meanwhile, the truffles are degrading the minerals and passing minerals with water up into the tree, and the tree is photosynthesizing and passing sugars and carbohydrates down into the roots, which the truffles need. So they've grown together for years. And like Trish said, I used to cruise timber quite a bit, and all day long with a dog. Always had a dog, and the dog was always sniffing around the ferns. So there are some truffles that are in association with sword ferns, and it hasn't really been proven, but anecdotally, you can see it by the way we find them. Oh, you started. Okay.
Not really.
So that's a black truffle that
we haven't rehearsed.
Yeah, we haven't. And
so those are the truffles, the black truffles that typically are associated with ferns. They like the same kind of environment that ferns like, sort of dark and danky and a little damp, and maybe the soils too.
The soils are darker, sandy loam type of soil. Could be in a floodplain of a river. They can be in crepe plantings. If anybody's done CREP program, that's where the black truffles love to live, in dark soil. The white truffles, which we also have, associated with Douglas fir, like a clay, a reddish clay, it's compact clay, and that's where you'll find these. And they're both associated with Douglas fir. I guess those are Doug fir needles there. They might be something else.
At least in our area. In Oregon, the soils are a little different. So, but what we find is they like a different type of soil than the blacks. And red, yeah. So, I mean, you all have to kind of take it with a grain of salt as far as, when we're saying they like, because they adapt, obviously. And in the Willamette Valley, where a lot of truffles are found, the soils are really different than what we have here most of the time. So
this is Tuber oregonense, which has been renamed to Tuber cascadians.
The black was renamed.
Tuber. Well, we mostly go after white truffles and black truffles. They do have a lot of scientific names associated, and they're constantly changing.
Cascadian. They just changed that name.
Just last year, they've decided this is a truffle that's found alongside the Cascades in the lower valleys, and rather than simply Oregon. So they changed the name to reflect that. and they are comparable to the European truffles, the Spanish white Alba or the French Perigord. And in blind taste tests, it's sometimes hard to tell the difference. The Northwest truffles have less, they're not as highly sought after, just because they haven't been presented to the population like they have been in the past in Europe. They've been there, so they've used them in cooking for a much longer time. So people know the value of them a lot better. And let's see.
Oh, here's another Oregon white. That's the same one, I guess. And that's kind of, it's hard to judge how big they are in these pictures, but the white truffles, if you get one that's this size, you're feeling pretty good and proud of yourself. The black truffles, on the other hand, it's not uncommon to find them this size, and you very rarely find little guys. So we kept hunting for that elusive big truffle white one, and quite frankly, the only one that I've found that my dog picked up on the way to our mailbox, all of a sudden she was just alerting, and I was like, there aren't even any fir trees around, and it was underneath a juniper root, and it was huge. It was like about this big, and there was a fir tree across the road, the county road. I don't know how many feet, probably.
And that's what that truffle was probably connected to that tree on the other side of the county road. Because we had ponderosa pine there and juniper, and that was it. Right near our home site.
There's no, you say, well, yeah, this is what they like, but they will sometimes surprise you.
They are.
That's why you need a dog.
Yeah.
Dogs are helpful that way.
The truffles are a pioneer species, so they'll come in after a disturbance. A hot slash pile burn isn't going to work because it's going to kill everything under the hot pile. But around the edges, like morels will come up sometimes after a burn, that edge is not as hot, and so it hasn't killed all the mycelium that's underground. And let's see.
And
any questions, just fire out. Bill.
Kind of an association. What about filberts? A few years ago, I was at a program and somebody's wanting to sell me a lot of filberts to host some truffles.
Okay, now those will be the European truffles.
Okay.
They're associated with filberts. Ours, you can find them near filbert trees or hazel brush, but it's usually they're associated with Douglas fir nearby. But yeah, the cultivated truffles, and I've got a flyer or some information we can get out to you that can put you in touch with these guys in Oregon that have developed a program to plant your own either white oak. Truffier is a truffle farm, and you can start your own. It takes a while. We should have done it when we first heard about it, because now we'd be 5 or 6 years into it, and it takes 7 to 10 years before you get your first truffles. But you're gonna find them because they plant them in rows, and we've watched people working their dogs that just go from tree to tree to tree, and when the dog indicates a truffle, they put in one of those little metal wire flags, and they just keep going. Let the dog indicate, and then later that day or the next morning, some diggers come out and they harvest them. Yes.
So when you say growing your own, are you meaning the native ones or European ones?
The European ones.
Oh.
And they're working on trying to develop a program where they can inoculate Douglas fir seedlings, so when you plant a harvest area, you'll have the truffles starting out on day one. Not eating them, but you'll have the mycorrhiza there. So, they are, the cultivated truffles will, are available in the black truffle, the Perigord, or the Alba. So you can plant a mixture, maybe every other row, and, or in, I'm sure they've had lots of research on which way is the best way to plant those. But, yes.
How deep, when you're digging them, like how deep are they
Um,
under the ground?
we usually find them between the duff and the dirt. But sometimes the dog will, we let them indicate, and Tricia's training the dog now that after they indicate like pawing once, they should sit. If they don't, they might dig a little more and scratch it. And they're really sensitive to getting hurt. The truffle will break into pieces, or you'll get a scratch on it. It lowers the value of if you're selling them. If you're keeping them for yourself, it lowers the value because once they're opened up, they're gonna go bad faster. And they only last 3 to 7 days, We've got a few here that we've had for about a week. Is that right, Trish?
Yes, yeah, the black truffles actually last on average about 5 days, I guess. And the white truffles, 3 days max. It depends how you clean them, but they're so small that if they do get sort of an area that's kind of rotten, you pretty much have to dig out almost the whole thing. So essentially you have no truffle there. So but I think just by nature, they don't last as long as the black truffles.
Mm-hmm. Black truffle has a tougher skin.
Mm-hmm.
You can just feel it. Russ.
So I assume they die off after a harvest with.
I've just read some information about that, and the Northwest Forest Plan kind of looked at mushrooms overall for ecological forestry. And so they're recommending in that plan that you leave, little lifeboat islands, 2 or 3 or 4 trees in amongst through your clear cut, rather, it could even be individual trees, because lots of times we find individual trees will support truffles if it's the only tree, or in a field. Where we live, we have old pasture, it's old farmland, it was a dairy, and we have a few trees that have been growing since we've been there 30 years now. We're starting to see them like this, but they were just little seedlings when we moved in, and there's truffles right there in our own backyard. We had no idea, but the dogs showed them to us. We were like, what's that dog doing? He's
We're so
indicating,
stupid, we didn't believe them.
They know the smell. Yeah. So thinning is also good. The trees do better. They send down more sugars. The truffles get more sugars. They're multiplying faster. Unthinned, pre-commercial thin stand is ideal to look for them because you don't have the brush in your way. If you have salal and ferns, you're not going to see the little squirrel indications. There's Douglas squirrels. Everybody know what a Douglas squirrel is? I've got a picture of one coming up, but they're really close to the truffles, and they'll nose in. You'll see a little quarter-sized spot where the squirrel's nosing
Like a
down
little
in.
flap. Sometimes if it's mossy, you'll see a little.
Yeah, they'll dig a little,
Flap.
just a little bit. And that's an indicator. If you're with your dog, let them smell that. Pretty soon they'll be finding truffles in that spot.
What about what age of a stand of fir? I got a stand that's 09 it was planted, and it's coming in with alder and cherry and fir.
And fir, yeah,
Yeah.
as long as that's a good age.
That would be a good age.
The more I read, the more conflicting information I'm picking up. So we've always, in fact, I wrote it in here, and I've got copies for people of this. 15 to 30 years is ideal. But what I was reading last night is the old growth will even support them. We haven't found as many in our older 60-year-old stands, as we find in the 30 to 35-year-old. It depends if there's been legacy trees left scattered in. You know, that'll help inoculate the area. And so you could have a few scattered big firs around that held the truffles during the harvest and supported them after the harvest. And that mycelium goes a long ways. It can, I'm guessing 1,000 feet, you know, for one tree. If you could, and they do, they can track it. There's a book by Suzanne Smars, who was a researcher at OSU, Oregon State, and she found genetic material that was 1,000 feet away from the host tree, you know. So that's why we'll find truffles in grasslands, you know, and you think of it, you've got to have the Douglas fir around the edge. And that mycelium goes way out there. And it's under the drip line you're probably gonna have better success to find them, but they can easily be 150 feet away. You'll find truffles. You see the dogs are indicating.
And I'll add, but I will add that if you don't have a dog, I mean, some people, it's not a good way to get truffles, but you can do it. You can rake in, a lot of people rake, but it really sort of ruins the next generation.
Yeah, it's not
like if you go
recommended.
into an area and you say, oh, I bet I have truffles, and you can rake. And we know someone that does that, and he's quite successful. The big deal is that what he finds a lot of immature truffles. You know, the dogs will find, because of the volatile organic compounds that are in the truffle, if you put them in a jar and you pop the jar open and you smell them and you're just like, whoa, it's really a volatile organic compound. And that's what the dogs smell when the truffle is mature. If they're not mature, then they don't really get that. They don't find them that easily. But raking, you can find the truffles, but they aren't going to be mature and they're not going to have the flavor. They won't, you know, do all the good things that.
And that's the reason that our local truffles aren't as valuable as the ones in Europe, because they use pigs, they use dogs, they don't use the raking technique. And you can rake this with your fingers, because if you find a squirrel hole or two or three, you know there's some truffles nearby. You might just look around in the duff and find some. But you're going to find a lot of them that aren't going to ripen. Once they're detached from the root, they do have it like a root. They're not going to ripen anymore. So you have a bunch of truffles that have been raked, and there's a few in there that are ripe, and you go and sell them to a chef. He opens the bag they're in. Smells good, because he's smelling only the ripe ones. Those other ones he's going to cook with, and he's not going to be happy.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be disappointing. You won't get the flavor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Going back to the damaged truffles that are too small, possibly with the dog, or in the cleaning process got raped a little bit, can you salvage those and market them somehow to a dog trainer? Are they usable, or if you dry them, do they last a little longer for training? Or
We haven't dried.
We freeze them for training.
We've got some for
And
some
you can
people with
even,
dogs.
like, if you use them, well, if those are I think the dog probably still smells something,
Mhm.
you know, but it's not like this, woof, you know.
Well, if
kind of
it's
gets you-
just damaged, say it broke
Oh,
in
if they're
half,
just damaged,
Those
no,
are-
that's fine. And
you
that's,
can still infuse with those.
yeah,
But you could
Or
also
cook, shave
save
them.
one after infusing. You could save it and train with that. And we've held them over the winter in the freezer, you know, till spring. So springtime, the truffles are starting to get active, the spring whites especially. And to get the dog going again, in case they forgot, which they probably don't, you know, we'll grab out one of those frozen ones, let it thaw, and here's the smell we're going after, find the truffle. And okay, that's right, you know?
We're on the
Yeah,
same program.
yes,
So this was a
Oh.
bonus day, actually. This was a white and a black and
that's an egg.
an egg. And it, I mean, it was just one of those days was like eureka. You know, you found a really nice white, really nice black, and then I just size wise to compare.
Yeah, those are good size.
Yeah, they were nice, but it's not always that way. In fact, it's usually not that way. So, not to, yeah, don't get your hopes up.
But if you start a truffliere, which is a truffle farm that you're cultivating yourself, you're gonna get a higher percentage of these kind of truffles in your harvest. So that's something to think about. Doesn't take much, 1 acre. Because truffles, I looked up today, and they're selling in the Northwest for between $50 an ounce is the Seattle price. That's $800 a pound. And we have found single truffles that are almost a pound before, but those are rare.
Yeah, usually it's, a pile of them, and they'll maybe weigh up to a pound.
Or an ounce, it depends.
Or an
yeah,
ounce,
Right,
right.
but it can range, they had some Italian blacks for $3.20 a pound. Some Perigords from France, those are blacks, $1,200 a pound. And those are premium, there isn't one nick on them. They're solid. They've shipped them within a day of harvesting.
And pre-cleaned, right?
Yeah, they're
No
clean.
dirt
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
tonnage.
Yeah, right.
In fact, there was a black truffle for sale at the marketplace, at the Oregon Truffle Festival. And it was perfect. I mean, you just don't get these, beautiful, perfectly cleaned. It didn't have any, rotty spots on it, and nobody bought it. It was, so it went back to, whoever found it. But, yeah, Dawn said it.
How much was it?
Oh, she said it was about $60 just for the truffle. And then there were all these other truffles that weren't so perfect, but you could do the same thing with them. But it's just that that perfect truffle, that prize, but nobody was willing to pay the money for it.
Yeah, it's in the presentation. If you're at a fancy restaurant and the chef and his helper come out and they shave it real thin on your plate, if it looks perfect, it's worth a lot more to everybody, Yes,
Are they just like terrestrial mushrooms in that they only persist for like 3 days or 4 days underground in good condition?
they are only underground.
So how long does the good condition underground last once they've
Yeah.
reached mature,
Good question.
whatever their growth size?
They'll go a little longer than when we harvest them, because once you harvest them and break that root, they stop growing, they stop ripening. But they are a short-term, it's fleeting. When we get home, we clean them with using hardly any water. If you can clean them without, like in the woods, when I find one, if there's any moss nearby, I just hold it there and kind of wash it like a sponge and then store it. And so when we get home and the outside dries a little bit, you can brush them off. So they'll last longer that way. And adding water, especially if there's a scratch on the truffle, it's gonna reduce the life of the truffle drastically. And so they're basically good between up to 3 days and say 7 days for black truffles. You might squeeze a few more days out if you maintain it while you're infusing. So every day if we're infusing, we would keep carving at this. So you find a little dark spot, you carve that off. If you miss it, say for a couple of days, and you pick that truffle up again, you want to dry it and carve out those dark spots. You can smell those dark spots. They don't smell good. They smell kind of like old meat, and you're thinking, we don't want that on my plate. So this one still has some pretty good smell to it, but yeah, they're definitely, it's a, yes, one more.
But underground, how long are they good? Is it like just as brief? As
You
one,
don't-
you know, like for example, an oyster mushroom, if you see one coming out, you know, you have to be back in a day or two, or it's gonna be.
Right.
Is it
Yeah.
the same sort of thing that if you see evidence of a divot in the ground, I better be back here in a day or two or it's gonna be too late? Is it that fleeting underground as well? before
No, it can take a month or two for them to ripen. So as long as they're untouched, they're gonna last longer than once we harvest it. You know, and we haven't, when we find one, we don't ever say, well, okay, I'm gonna come back for that one, cover it up. You know, because you'll never find it again. You could put a flag there and maybe do that, but you'd have to also know before you do that, you'd have to even know that, is it ripe or not? If it's ripe, we're gonna get it, right? Because otherwise it's adding to the supply of unripe ones, which is gonna make the chef mad, you know?
So Jen, so
Yes,
talk about the
okay.
relation, oh, sorry, go ahead, Eugene.
Oh, I just, what's the season? I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the seasons are, okay, we start in October. Okay, there's a white fall truffle, and that's what we're going for in October, and it lasts, its season is about October till roughly January. It can go a little further, maybe into February. Every year is different. And we've only been doing this for 5 years, so we're not the real experts at it, you know, we're just sort of winging it. And in the middle of the winter, okay, so the fall truffles, as they ripen, we're going towards January, and then in the spring, the spring truffles are white truffles also. They're starting to ripen. The fall truffles are dying out. But so you'll get an overlap. You might find the same two different kinds of white truffles in the same area in January, early February.
Do they look that much different or taste that much different?
They don't look a lot different, and we think they taste almost the same. First thing,
I think they look different, but
they do.
they have a much more white interior, whereas, well, I could go back. I have to find see, there's a white, see how it's kind of taupe and white? The
Here.
spring white, the inside of it, all the veining is white, but the meat or whatever is sort of a taupe color. And the later spring white very often is just white in the center. It's white with white veining. Just different.
Yeah, that's what you found.
Yeah. And
We're thinking those are less ripe.
well, we don't know. Yeah. And our authority on this that taught us, she's not she's not aware of it either. And we've talked to Charles Lefevre down in the valley, Willamette Valley, and he's not really clear on it either. He thinks they all kind of look the same, but I think maybe it is stage of age of, the state of their age or the age of their stage.
So what they do when there's like 500,
something like that.
there's about 500 kinds of truffles in the Northwest, and they're still finding new ones every month. And so the way they determine if it's a new, different one, well, nowadays they can use genetics, but in the past it would study the spores. So they would dry the truffles out, not expecting to ever use them. And then they'd get some dry spores and put them under an electron microscope, and they could tell, okay, that spore is totally different than this other one. And we thought these were the same. So they're constantly reclassifying truffles, and the names will change. And it's kind of frustrating because, you learned on one name, and now it's kind of like Poria wearyi. Now it's Phelinus wearyi. And why? Let's leave the name the same. But that makes it harder to figure out what somebody's talking about. They got a truffle, and is it the one that's okay to eat or not? And so we just kind of stick with Doug fir. Those truffles are safe. Anything that's associated, and there's only these, well, there's, there's another number. They're saying now there's 5 different kinds of truffles that are culinary in the Northwest. And we learned about 3 of them, the black truffle and then the 2 whites, the spring white and the fall white. So I'm trying not to get too detailed on it because it kind of throws you off easily.
So in the woods, talk about the Dougie squirrel and the importance.
Your namesake, Doug.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everybody's seen these guys in the woods, right? They call them chickarees also, and they kind of yell at you.
Yeah, no, they're important to the life cycle of the truffle. They eat them, they stash them away, then they defecate, and that has spores in it, and so they add to the life cycle of and in fact, they say that they are really paramount to their existence, to the truffle's existence. So
they bring them out into the clear cuts.
right.
They might stash them out there. They'll go up a tree and stash a truffle like up on a limb crotch, and this was on one of my bike trails on one of our tree farms, and I ride in the summer, and I have found truffles on the limbs. This guy came up so close to me. I got a few pictures of him, and he was just bold and looking right at me. And I almost got like, oh no, it's gonna jump! Look out, But yeah, so they'll spread the spores around. Just walking on them or handling them, they get spores, and they go up that tree and down it, and there's some spores over there now. So that's how a clear cut gets repopulated with truffles. Deer will eat them. Coyotes, bears, there was a big list. Spotted owls, well, they'll eat the squirrels and they're ingesting some of the spores that way too. So let's see, what else about Dougie?
Well, that's good.
So they're the good indicator. Those are the guys that make the little quarter-size holes in the duff.
To make you think, oh, you know what? I think there's some truffles here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here we have some black truffles on the left and a white truffle on the right. And,
See, there's that lighter color. That's less ripe than, say, this one.
Yeah.
But you'll always find these markings. This is where the spores are on these kind of tubes. I just learned that last night. This one looks a little different, but it's the same truffle. It might just, I'm not sure if it's the right.
Basically, you'll get used to the smell, and you just kind of, I can take a truffle and I can actually sort of, at this point, been doing it a couple years, so I can find a rotten spot just with my nose.
Mm-hmm.
You just
She's
turn
got a
it,
good
and
sniffer.
yeah, I do have a pretty good nose. So, it doesn't all smell bad. It's like, oh no, this side's good, and oh and so I started digging on the bad spot, and sure enough, you get inside and it's kind of rotten. So, and that's what you want to infuse with. I don't know if you want to start talking about infusing now instead of habitat.
Yes.
I got a quick poisonous question. Are there any lookalikes that you can get mixed up?
Oh, no.
They're really, we haven't, but we don't eat them. Okay. So the chefs will want to shave them and put them on your plate. And we went to a truffle festival dinner down in Oregon Valley, Willamette Valley, about a month ago, and they shaved some on, but we tried those flakes and I just don't get the flavor as much. What you're smelling are the volatile organic compounds that the truffle is evaporating. So if you have a bad spot like Tricia's talking about, you'll smell it. It doesn't smell great. It's not this fruity smell that these have. This has been carved on. You can tell we've been chasing this one.
You can
right
pass it
down to the
around.
lab.
I don't know if people are interested in smelling it or not.
So it looks like you have golden retrievers.
Yeah, we do.
So, and they're good at finding
Oh, yeah.
good noses. Are there
Yeah.
certain breeds that are
You know,
that are
there's,
good for?
Well, there is an Italian dog called Lagotto Romagnolo that were bred for truffle hunting in Italy. And so, you know, they have the name, they have, you know, but at the table when we went to this truffle dinner, there was a gal with two people with Romagnolos or with Lagottos. And then another gal has two Pomeranians. And she said, those little devils, they just get down on the ground and they just find truffles like crazy.
you know, they're
So-
short, so they're close to the smell, right? They're just right over it. And so they can do it. It's, a lot of breeds dogs have a smell capacity about 5,000 times what we have. And so they can smell it. A tall dog like a golden, he's up here, he puts his nose down to sniff. You know, this is Jenny over here, she puts her nose right down. That's the first indication we get, even before they paw. They'll,
And it looks different than they're just sniffing around.
right, and
You know, it
they'll
just-
put their nose
Once
up.
they know what they're supposed to be doing out there.
First, they'll catch a whiff of those volatile organic compounds and they'll put their nose up. They'll figure out which direction it's coming from. And then they start to get their nose down and they're serious at that point. They you know, they want to find it because they would just as soon eat it themselves. You know, so you have to get over there quickly. You do. And so we'll have the harness on them. Well, she doesn't, but Jenny's got a harness. And we usually run a long leash and let them just drag it, or if it's a fast dog, you hang on to it. You know, because you don't want them digging too far.
Yeah.
And a few years back, I got hit by a snowboarder and broke my femur here, so I'm a little slower in the woods. And so Soleil is better for me because she's a slower mover, you know. And
Until the
so
wind's just right, and it's coming off the hill, nice steep
she'll
slope,
go
and
straight
she
up.
just goes straight up and just leaves them in the dust.
Yeah. And she's up there.
So, yeah, but we've kind of learned, you know, we've learned the hard way, and we didn't do leashes, and we didn't enforce sits, and we didn't, you know, do all the things
Perfectly.
at all. And they got us truffles, and so.
But we were getting
just
truffles,
lucky.
so we're like, okay, this is working.
Yeah,
But
but there is definitely a way to do it.
better way, yeah. Here's a disturbance, right, a road. They have found truffles in the gravel 12 inches down. Because the road rock is about maybe 10, 12 inches thick. And they go right through it and we'll get a truffle at the bottom of that.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, there goes
Um,
your road. It has all
see,
the.
it was a
potholes.
question.
Yeah, we were talking about the squirrels earlier, and the quarter size hole that they dig. Are they, I'm assuming if they've dug it, they've gone in and eaten the truffle that was there.
Yeah, they
So you're
usually
just finding other truffles that are around within that same place that
That's-
hadn't matured yet? Where
right.
the squirrel was eating them? Or-
Exactly.
Probably
Okay,
that, or he's just full enough,
Okay,
or he's taking it. They'll lots of times just start munching on it right there,
okay,
and you'll see little flakes of white or black.
okay.
and
Or you find a truffle that is half eaten. You know, I mean, we find a lot of those.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'Cause
we don't
they'll
know if it's
stash
a Dougie or a mouse or a shrew or, you know, something else, but,
right.
it's like, oh, this was a nice truffle, you know? Oh,
Yeah,
well, I'll
they,
share.
yeah, they got it. So when we're doing the trimming, that's another thing. We save all the trimmings. And somebody could train a dog with those, or lots of times, you know, I got half a jar full of them. I always take them out in the woods and start throwing them back out there. Because those spores are still in it, you know, and they're gonna start, not all of them, but maybe even if 10% start, you know, you'll be able to spread your truffles or inoculate new areas that way.
What elevation are you at in this picture?
Okay, that's the same road. It's a different section. This is at about 500 feet.
Centralia,
This is right
yeah.
in Centralia area. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're finding them
Not
through
this year.
the snow, which is not recommended, but they will go after them. It's really hard on your hands, you know, because you get a couple truffles and now you're all frozen up.
There's a
But-
gal down in La Center that does a lot of commercial truffling and foraging, and she had a big order for the Oregon Truffle Festival for their meals, and so they were counting on her for all these truffles. Well, it was, what was it, 2 or 3, 4 years ago that we just got dumped in early February. So she was like, oh, what am I gonna do? Her dogs were truffle, looking for truffles under
Like 18
like
inches?
2 feet, about 2 feet of snow, and she hit her quota. She couldn't believe it. I mean, she was working hard, and her dogs were working very hard, but they were successful. And I mean, it just goes to show, if the dogs are committed, they'll do it.
The volatile compounds are coming off the truffle and the snow is above it. And so it makes like a cone of smell. And so they're coming along on the top smelling that. Oh, there's a truffle down there. And they might not hit exactly right, but it'll be within 5 or 6 inches. It's amazing how close, when they start to put that paw down that first time, you're usually right over the truffle or just a few inches away.
Yeah.
Bill?
So your dogs, do they have a favorite time of day? Are those oils, are they more volatile, like on midday?
That's a good question. We've tried, we don't usually start too early in the morning, but I guess you could, and I think they would still find them.
The snow is saying something there that they would be different from midday, and you would think.
Yeah, and we also find them in different aspects. So the north aspect, lots of times will have more because it holds the moisture better. And sometimes though, it's like chanterelle, sometimes it's the south aspect, that they needed that warmth in the soil to start growing. So we don't know. There's so much research that can still be done. It's amazing. So let's see, we're gonna switch. Oh, what do you
So
have there?
there's just a nice black one. And there's.
That's a white one. That's like a baseball size.
Well, I don't know.
So they found that one at Stampede Pass, which is
Wow.
in Centralia. That's Stampede Pass. But this is an area where we've found a lot of black truffles, but that day, I don't know, is that a black? That might be a black one.
I think it's kind of a combination.
But see, here's the broken or chewed on by squirrels. See the teeth marks here? And you find a lot of those. They'll just take a niche out there. Sometimes you'll find 4 or 5 or 6 truffles just within a small area. And so that's usually where a squirrel had dug that out and stashed them in there, And they'll come back. They come back to them. There's another size picture. There's some nice blacks. These are just from a week ago.
Yeah.
A week or 2 ago.
They'll start looking the same to me.
These we found in a crepe planting. And the trees were about 15 years old. And we had found blacks there before. That's 14 ounces, I think.
Almost a pound there.
Oh, is that a pound 0.4? Yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, we bring a scale. I got a different scale here. This little guy, just take it out in the woods. And when you're done truffling that day, you want to journal what you did, what day it was, what the weather was like, how many grams or pounds or ounces you found. And then that really helps the next year and the year after, where to go, what time of year, where you had good success.
We were talking about seasons earlier. You were saying you started to and then didn't quite finish on things.
Right.
October to January for the falls, and then January into,
into about as late as May,
oh, awesome.
even June,
Yeah.
June.
Depends
So
on the
it's pretty
year,
long.
you know, like everything, this wasn't a big snow year. So who knows what it, yeah, but we're getting a lot of rain now, so.
Yeah, at first we thought snow was gonna be a negative, but it turned out to be a positive. They needed the moisture. There's a
And
part of
that's
your
white,
answer.
that's white and black?
No, those are both whites.
Okay.
And then the black, they overlap, and actually you can find black truffles all year long, but there aren't gonna be very many of them in the summer.
Okay.
You might find some then, but the blacks, I have that in here. Oh, they can be found year round, although April to May is peak season for blacks. Of course, I read last night that March is the peak season for blacks.
And what we're finding in the patch that we have had a lot of luck with finding blacks is they have been eaten. A lot of them have been eaten already, and they have rotten spots on them. So maybe it's just the day that we hit that patch. I don't know.
Yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, we need to go back. We don't have like this really.
Bert, you got a truffle house.
Yeah.
You
That dog looks exactly like Lagoda Romagnolo in miniature. That's exactly what they look like. They're white and have about that much
They have a lot of curl on them. They look like Lagodas. Yeah, Lagodas actually look like a doodle, like a golden doodle.
Yeah.
But they have a cropped tail, and they have a really different personality than us.
They are just bred to find truffles.
Yeah.
I guess they could be friendly, but the one we know is sort of just serious.
Yeah, she.
Just serious.
Hyperchlor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Outer snow.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
So do you want to talk about infusing?
Yes, I guess we do.
Before
Yeah.
infusing, can you tell, what kind of soil do the blacks like?
They like dark black soil. Okay, and sandyish loam, so that's dark black usually. That's why the crepe plantings are good. They're along riverbanks and low ground next to a river or stream. There's been a lot of sediment come down in those kind of little streams, and so it builds up a loose loam. Blacks love that. And of course, there'll be sword ferns there too, usually.
Yeah,
And
they
that's where
like
you'll
the sword
find them.
fern type habitat. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll jump to infusing. So,
And that's primarily what we do with the truffles for our own use and, gifting, whatever, but,
so this is a regular tea ball. You guys ever make loose tea? And they also have ones that are screened and they're bigger, which are better. They get another piece of truffle in there. This is pretty small, but these are strong. The aroma, you don't need much of a truffle to do a 2-pound block of butter or cheese. So the foods that'll take the flavor are have fat in them. So butter, cheese, nuts,
eggs.
sugars.
Yeah.
Sugars.
Some
Vodka
sugars.
has a sugar. Alcohol's a sugar. It'll take the flavor. That one's still full. I
Cream
better try that
cheese.
out.
Cream cheese, milk, cream.
So what we do is we just take a piece of paper towel, wrap a piece of truffle in it, stick that in there, and then we never put the truffle in a liquid. And I'll tell you why in a sec. But then we just hang this above the liquid, so your liquid would stay stopped
Or
here.
the food.
Yes,
whatever.
I'll put a rubber band there. I want to stop my liquid there, so it's not touching the truffle. And then screw the top on. And then every day, probably about the same time of day, I'll take that out and I'll dry that truffle off and trim off any spots that are going bad.
Change the
Keep it
paper
fresh.
towel.
Change the paper towel so it's dry. you want to keep those truffles as dry as you can once you pick them up. And so it'll take, say this was olive oil. We do olive oil a lot, and it makes great salad dressings, and you can dip bread in it. Use it. We don't use it for cooking because since these smells are volatile organic compounds, if you heat it up, you're gonna lose all your compounds into the air. So once it's truffled or infused, say a week, say it's a week, we infuse that oil. I could have filled it up to here.
So you've put olive oil in there, we're gonna say for an
Yes.
example.
Yes.
Right. And then you work this truffle and keep trimming it, keep it dry, wait about a week. Sometimes it's only 3 or 4 days.
You just keep
And
smelling it.
When you open it, if you get a good strong smell, it's done. So you take the truffle out, you could freeze it or give it to someone to train a dog or infuse something else.
Well, and you have to see if it's spongy. Like if it's a white truffle, they tend to get spongy. And if it gets kind of spongy,
and moist and
it's
sticky.
done.
Right.
We just put it in the exit to the tree farm pile. Yeah.
And you're doing that at room temperature?
No, we want to
Oil,
try to,
yes.
we usually do it at the temperature the truffles are living in. So I leave them outside in the winter. But if it's a warm spring or a warm fall, I put them in the fridge. And if you don't have them in a container like this, they're going to infuse the food in your fridge. And even eggs that haven't been cracked open, it'll take the truffle smell right through the shell of the egg.
So you don't
Yeah.
have to stir it then, like anything you have in there?
No.
Infuses.
No, because this is actually never going to touch the liquid. The reason for that is these grow in the dirt, right? And I don't know if I didn't know this, but botulism is everywhere in dirt. And it'll thrive in an anaerobic condition. If it's aerobic and it has oxygen, it's not as risky, but we don't want to take a chance. So we always hang it above the fluid, the liquid. And really, olive oil or alcohol is the only liquids we deal with.
Milk.
Yeah,
Cream.
milk, right?
Milk and cream, I do, yeah.
Because they have fat in them. They'll hold the flavors. Cheese is a good one. Potato chips is great because they've been deep fried and there's oil there and it holds the flavor. The blacks are sweet or savory, so you cook.
No,
You don't
black
cook
are
with them.
sweet and the whites are savory.
Yeah, that's it. You're right. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a big difference and it's kind of unfortunate. We went out several days ago and all we really found were black truffles. We found, I think, one white. I was like, oh, well, that's going to be a big show on Tuesday night.
Yeah, we don't have any whites. Do
No, we don't. Yeah, so we kind of got short.
Okay, cleaning, infusing. So when you clean them, we talked about that a little. Try to clean them in the woods as much as you can. Get a big clump of dirt off. Clean them on some moss if you have some moss nearby, and then put them in your bag. You want to have a collecting bag. Where'd it go? Oh, you could use a baggie.
Jim, it's right in the black and white. Right there.
Oh yeah, there we go. You could use a baggie, but don't seal it. Let them breathe. We have just this is a little bag, that
Clips on your belt.
doesn't really seal that well, and so you can put the truffles in there. We try to keep the whites separate from the blacks. This could just go on your belt.
I don't think it's important, but I always kind of think, oh, they're gonna maybe blend their flavors together. And
Yeah, John wasn't worried about that, but
I know.
we keep them separate.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you need your implement of destruction.
Soil disturbance.
Those are good. If you don't have one with you and your dog's indicating, just break a stick and use that when get the dog back a little and push it in next to where he's looking or pawing and start breaking the soil up. You'll find them that way. What else? Here's a
Put it up on
dandelion
the
digger,
table.
you know. What's that?
Put it up on the table.
Oh, yeah, so
People
you
in the
can
back
see 'em.
can see what's going on.
So we've tried these. Trish likes this a lot. But I think this is your favorite.
That's become my favorite.
I like this shovel mostly because once I get down there, it's really hard to get back up. And so I use it to, prop myself up. So, or I'll take a hiking stick or something with me, If you're young, like some of these guys around here, you can get up and down. This guy, Charles Lefevre, who is the Truffle entrepreneur, and he's setting people up to grow their own truffle farms, He searched for truffles in one day, his record day, he got, I don't remember how many pounds, but he got up and down 500 times that day. So he was out there all day, probably using more than one dog.
Yeah, he had 2
'cause
dogs
the
I think,
dogs-
at that time, yeah.
We only push our dogs about 45 minutes to an hour and then give them a break. They need a break. Let them swim a little or walk, just kind of get off.
They need to
Get
break
off
or
the
you need
hunt.
a break.
Yeah,
What do they charge an hour?
they charge treats. So
Yeah, we pay it.
we pay every
High
time
value
they find a
treats.
truffle, we pay for it. So, and it has to be something they don't have all the time. Yeah. That's Jenny. We don't have Jenny anymore. We lost her last summer and she
She was the black truffle queen.
queen, yeah. And of course, there's Douglas probably stashed a cache down in there,
Yeah. I bet.
and so we let her go for it, and
Yeah.
that's not what she found, but
That's my
what
young
happens,
dog, and he probably didn't find that because that was a while ago. I was just, what a goofball.
So these are salmon
Oh, that's
tasting dog treats, which they never get. So they're like, oh, it's funny, you hand them one after they've given you the truffle. And we usually put the truffle back here in your palm and then hand them the treat, with your fingers. So they know we're trading. Okay? So some dogs will actually, so we tell them good, and let them smell the truffle and hand them the treat like that.
2 to 1.
Yeah, but some dogs will rarely, I lost my train of thought.
Give it up. They don't want to give up.
They want to eat it. They really do. And so if we have trained them at home to trade, like they'll pick something up they're not supposed to get, my shoe or something, or Tricia's, and we trade. We'll trade a dog bone or some little thing for that shoe. And so they know that word. And that really helps with the truffling.
Pass that, start passing a couple of those black truffles around.
Oh,
so
yeah.
People can just,
Let's
You
see, you
can't-
guys started, there's one out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
oh, okay.
Smell yet, John?
Hey Jen, how difficult is it to get the dogs to start responding to that? Or your dogs, did they respond and you just figured that out? Or did you teach them to respond?
Yeah, you have to kind of help them along.
So is it a smelling of?
Yeah, so there is kind of, like anything, you're a teacher, you were a grade school teacher, it's steps.
Yep.
And so you just, but it helps to have a truffle. I brought some.
Where's that vodka? Jim, where's vodka?
And here I am there. So I put some cotton balls into actually some white truffle oil that we had infused. Yeah, you can smell it. So this is a good place to start if you don't have truffle, and you can actually buy truffle oil. But look on the jar of truffle oil because a lot of it's not real, it's artificial. And so you wanna have it say the botanical name of the truffle that is supposed to be.
Yeah, it won't be
In that oil.
synthetic. If you see a Latin name, that's the oil to get. The synthetic oils are copying
They're just
what's
test
in
tube
here, but
flavor,
they
yeah.
don't have all the nuance of the different compounds. They have a lot of them, but not all of them. So if you can get the real truffle oil, that's gonna help, you know, although you can use the synthetic and it will work, right? Didn't you tell me you did that?
It's a company, Truffle Dog Company.
Yeah.
But they blend, the ones from the Northwest.
From where?
From the Northwest.
Oh, good,
The-
yeah.
the black and the white.
Okay, yeah, that's the best kind, yeah. And, you know, as far as training them, we start in the house. And,
So I actually, because we had the luxury of having Truffles to train with, but this is how our mentor started her dog on truffle oil with these and T-balls. You start in the house, just in a simple place that they're gonna find it. They alert. I like, with my young dog now, I just have him on a harness and I ask him to sit. As soon as he smells it, I say sit, he sits. I say good dog. Well, I'm actually using a clicker, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with clickers, but it's a mark. It marks the behavior that you want. So if they sniff, you click, and it marks it right there. And then you say good dog, whatever. You start treating them, and you can start it right here and say sniff. As soon as he puts his nose there, click, and then treat. And then we go a little step further with the words because humans like words. And we say truffle for treats, truffle for treats. Find the truffle, get a treat. And so that's just how we do it. But then you can, from this, you can move to hiding this in a T-ball, cotton ball. And
yeah, we always put it in
just
the
put
T-ball
it under
to
a
protect it.
chair or not under a rug right away, but just someplace that they're gonna smell it, and they're gonna pass through the living room or wherever they're gonna find it. And they'll be attracted to it. And as soon as they find it, sit, good, you know, and whatever, sit, you know. It's just a process, but the consistency and how you decide to do it is the important part. So, but having a harness on them really helps, and a leash from the get-go. We learned the hard way.
Yeah, I got it here somewhere.
Because our first two dogs were 9 and 10, I think, at the time that we first trained them. So, yeah, there's
Here's a little harness.
or her harness. And
You
then.
can figure out how to put it on. It's like a bridle on the
And
horse,
also,
you know?
it's kind of the routine of harnessing them up, putting the leash on, hey, we're gonna go find some truffles. You just make this a regular thing with the harness, and then they smell it, and it just sort of
They
sets
key
this.
into that harness after
Yeah.
a while. That harness means treats,
Yeah,
you know?
and you're always packing treats, because they need to be paid for their hard work. So these cotton balls, I think, are a brilliant idea for not having sticky truffles around. And actually, these are white. So, and they do have an odor. I mean, they have an essential. So open it up, close it back up, pass it on, just sniff it.
Sometimes you won't smell a thing, and other times, my nose is
Did
like
you
that.
smell it?
Some days I can smell
Well, to me,
every
it smelled
truffle.
like
Other days,
peppermint or something
Trish,
yummy.
test this one,
Oh, interesting. Because a lot of
But
times
I-
white truffles will smell, the first time I smelled it, I thought it smelled like diesel.
Diesel. What do you think it smelled like?
Yeah, diesel.
Yeah, you know what, that's the volatile organic
Yeah, I
compound.
mean,
That's what diesel gives off. Same thing, but,
You
yeah, and so you may never
And I
get
like
over
it,
that.
and I really like it in
But
pecans.
once you try
I
some
really like it in
pecans
other
that have been
things, but,
truffle infused or something, you'll get it. The diesel will go to the back of your brain. It's weird. The first time we got these smells, we were like, I don't get it. What's with these truffles? I don't think they smell good at all. some people say they smell like dirt, you know, well, they should, they came out of dirt.
Well,
So is it the same training for black and white with your
Mhm.
dog?
Yeah, you could train with either and it'll cross over. You know, we didn't know that, cause we started on whites, cause that's all we were finding. And then all of a sudden, Jenny
Yeah.
started finding nothing but black. And we were like, wow, we never taught her the black smell. But it was the organic compound wasting that they were keying into, I think, you know? And because we couldn't, maybe some dogs you could say, we only want blacks today.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, I don't know. But
Well, you
usually
just would go to those places. You would just go and say, okay, I want to find black, so I'm gonna go and find a real ferny, wet place. You know, and I want white, so I want to go. You know, like our friend in Seattle, our mentor, they find black truffles all the time, and so it's really special. Well, they go out to Pilchuck. But then they logged, you know,
Their
it
favorite
got
spot.
logged, and so, yeah, right now it's not the.
it'll come back and
It'll
they
come
can work the edges of it, you know, the trees are out there on the edge of the clear cut, you just go there. That was another thing. Is anybody here doesn't have a tree farm? Because you can still find truffles by walking the property line on your side of the line, you know? And the roots and the mycorrhizae are going out there and the truffles are out there. You don't even have to have a tree farm to find truffles. Oh,
The other thing is
oh,
Christmas tree, overgrown Christmas tree farms are notorious for
they're great.
finding truffles, I guess. We have never been on a old tree farm, you know, overgrown Christmas tree place, but,
Well,
We
found-
have overgrown Christmas trees, but they're mostly noble.
Yeah,
well,
and they don't have that association with nobles, but there are other truffles that associate with nobles.
Oh,
Cause they all need that mycorrhiza on the root hairs.
yeah, so I don't know what species that would be, but,
Yeah, they're not gonna be culinary.
right.
Yeah,
Do you, deal with the magic truffles, which are not mushrooms, or also called philosopher's stone?
no, never heard of them. No, are they they grow in the Northwest? or-
Right, they're in for people that go for that, start early in the morning and go all day long because they look like truffles. They dig them up and they're by chemically working them over, they have psilocybin in them. And they sell them to
I've never heard of
people
them.
that transfer them to Europe.
Wow, yeah. I've
This is
never heard of them.
thousands of dollars rather than.
Rather than
I wonder what they
hundreds. Wow.
No, it's not regulated in Europe because the psilocybin is coming from the mushrooms and not LSD. They, certain places, I think in the Netherlands, don't have it. People do this around here because I bumped into them and they got lost in the woods.
too many
Oh,
mushrooms.
okay, yeah. You know, that's a point there, the lost in the woods part.
Yeah.
If you're hunting truffles and it isn't your woods, you know, there's many places you can, like DNR. You can hunt truffles on DNR land as long as you're not selling them. And I think you can get a commercial permit if you want to sell them, but you can pick without a permit of any kind, if it's not a prohibited area, 3 gallons a day. And you know, we have a hard time dealing with 1 quart of truffles. If we were lucky enough to get a whole quart in one day, we're scrambling to get them infusing right away. Because if you don't, you're going to lose all the volatile compounds, and you're going to lose the flavors. But DNR allows 3 gallons a day. Yeah.
Is there a ratio for infusing? Like, could you put a little tiny truffle over a gallon of oil? Like, what's
You know, there
There is.
but I don't know. There is a ratio that they say, like with the olive oil, if it's a liquid, you don't want to have, you want the truffle to take up no more than 10% of that empty volume.
Airspace,
Yeah,
yeah.
the airspace, because it needs that surface area to infuse the food. If you're right up against the bottom, it's not gonna work as well. They're gonna get wet sooner and it's gonna be harder to maintain, you know? So a large container like this with one of those little black pieces that's going around would be ideal, because you're under 10% of the truffle volume, you know, is under 10% of the container. Yes.
So what do you do with truffle infused milk or cream?
Nope.
Ooh, Trish loves that.
I'm a dairy girl at heart, and I love the black truffled creams. And then I put it on my coffee instead of a creamer. And I'm not kidding, it is a dead ringer for Kahlua.
Wow.
It's really good.
Huh.
Yeah, so I do black truffles because they're sweet, you know, it gives a sweet characteristic to it. And, yeah.
You can add it to macaroni and cheese after you've cooked it, and then just before you serve it, you could pour some in, stir that in. Same with olive oil, use it that way. After you've cooked, stir it in, or
Okay,
make
so
salad
you don't necessarily
dressing.
want to cook it.
So they never cook with it, it's only added in like after the fact?
After, right.
Yeah.
And you know, you understand why, right? Because you're just gonna take all the flavor and it's gonna go right up into your oven and disperse, and it'll be gone. It'll just evaporate out. Because
A
it's
good way to
volatile.
shave them, shave. Say you melt some butter in a saute pan and you have some noodles already cooked up, and you just splash those into the butter, and then you shave some or grate, microblade some black truffles or white truffles on top, and just quickly stir fry sort of that, and it just kind of, yeah, that is.
And then you eat it right then.
Mhm.
We've got a recipe, a couple.
But you
I
don't
didn't
heat them
make
up too much.
a whole bunch of copies, but this is black truffle pasta. So that's what Trish was explaining. You use a little milk, a little cream, butter, and all those you can truffle
Yeah, you can infuse
first.
them first, and
So
then,
it increases the flavor.
yeah.
And also, someone gave me as a gift a jar of truffle salt.
Mhm.
I don't understand that stuff, but I don't know.
So I'm assuming that it's that they infuse the salt with the truffle.
Well, I'm thinking, because I've seen it even at Costco.
Yeah.
And so
So maybe it's just truffle flavored.
I think it's
So,
test tube
okay.
truffle. You know, what I would call test tube truffle.
Mhm.
You know, it's probably a great likeness. But it's, I
But
don't know
there's
how.
no
it could
oil
be.
in salt, so.
No.
Yeah.
So they're
But you know,
adding it.
there's no oil in the vodka either, and it takes the flavor.
Right.
Um,
And I've seen where, well, like when
It's
we
the
were in
sugars,
Italy,
yeah.
they would put the truffle in a plastic bag with a couple of eggs, uncracked eggs.
Mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
yeah.
And then they would like make an omelet with the eggs.
You can do that, or you could hard boil the eggs, you know, peel them and then infuse them.
Oh.
And eggs really do hold it. So does mayonnaise.
Like deviled eggs,
That's
you
another
can
one
make
that
deviled
really
eggs
holds the flavor.
with them, it's good, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna infuse cheese or butter, so how long will it hold that flavor?
Butter.
Definitely.
Really?
We've had it in the butter
The
sticks in
first
the
year, we
freezer.
just went crazy with everything, and all of a sudden, it's like, all we have is butter in our freezer. And so it
Pounds of it.
froze all the butter that we infused, and we ended up giving a ton of it away because we couldn't go through that much butter, but it lasted, and people were like, wow, that was really good stuff.
Okay.
So it does.
We've infused mayonnaise, you know, when the jar was,
It
say,
is
half
good.
full, and then hang the truffle above it there, and it'll last
That's a
at
good
least a
idea.
year.
Wow.
It's
And
amazing.
it's great for
Yeah.
sandwiches or.
Potato chips lose it pretty quickly. I'm not sure why, but they're good. We discovered those, the lady that taught us,
Yeah.
she had never heard of using potato chips, but she flipped for them, you know? Yeah. Was there a question over here, you guys? No?
Just a question.
Well, oh. Oh, you did?
No.
Any more questions about like the next step to train your dog? Because I will say that you can do the hides in the living room and then under the carpet, under area rugs or whatever, and the dogs, they catch on to it pretty quickly. And they really think it's a fun game. Then you go outside, maybe just put it loose under a bush or something, and they'll find it. I mean, my young dog, he would just go outside and,
Puts his nose up.
you know, if the wind was just right, because you kind of work with the wind a little bit. And he just, you know, you could just see his brain kind of going crazy. And then you know, go find that pretty quick. And then you bury it under the bark. And then you maybe dig a hole. And they're finding that really good. So you think, oh, we've got it. We've got it made. Then you go into the woods.
It's a whole other world.
It's like a
There's so many other
huge-
smells.
It's a huge jump. And so you just have to be patient through that. And so I kind of actually, this young dog, well, he's 4, but yeah, he's immature. And he just wasn't getting it in the woods. There was too much other stuff associated with, you know, hikes and biking and swimming and all these other fun things out there. But I will say a week and a half ago, he got on it and he was great. Then the next day we just went out this last Sunday and it was like,
nothing.
Okay, you know, you forgot everything, but that's okay. He'll get it back.
So that is a good point, though, the working the wind. You want to kind of quarter into the wind slowly. And you definitely want to go slow. They're not going to work at our speed. You know, we're thinking and they're just reacting. And they are looking for the smell. They know the word when we mention it. But if you give them that advantage of going into a slight breeze, doesn't take much of a breeze, just almost nothing. You know, you could wet your finger and, oh, it's coming from this way. So start going that way. And usually what happens to me is I'm thinking, find a truffle, you know, it isn't working. And so, oh, there's a holly seedling. I don't like holly in our woods. They keep spreading out. Bend over to pick it. Oh, he's already on a truffle spot. You know, as soon as you forget that you're going after truffles, they'll find it. It's really strange. That happens to me all the
Yeah,
time.
that happens with Soleil all the time.
Yeah.
Wait, do you train in the house to keep them from eating the truffle?
I just train in that because it's a confined area and
It's
there's
easier
not
to get the whiff of it.
any big distractions. So, and you can see what their body language says. You can learn to read the dog a lot in the house and then in your yard. Once you get out in the woods, like, okay, do they smell a squirrel? Did they, you know, oh, they're just eating some deer do. Oh, great. You know, there's just all this other just stuff. So you learn to kind of read the dog and find, because I know with Pitch, he will, he finds the truffles totally different than Soleil and Jenny did. So he just goes like this. And
that's perfect.
Soleil is like,
Like she's in a race to get it before I can get there.
yeah.
She's just like, oh, I'm gonna get it before he gets here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they'll flick it out sometimes into the tailing pile of the dirt, you know, and they're sniffing now, it's not here now. Then they search the tailing pile and you find it there a lot, more than half of the time. Yeah, it's in the tailings.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of like we all have our own style of whatever.
But
of
yeah,
swimming or whatever.
Also in the house, start in one room and have the dog be outside or somewhere else so he can't like, oh, I know where it is.
Right.
You just put it there, you know, and then let it age like what, 5
Yeah, you can
5
let
to
it
10
age
minutes?
about 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. And so once they do that in the room a few times, one time put it in there, you know, or hide it a little in that same room, and then you're ready to start working the other rooms of the house. And they'll go into every room looking for it, and when they get there to that doorway, they know it's there, they're gonna find it. Cause the smell is just good for us, we have to smell it pretty close, but they can smell it a long ways away. I've followed Soleil many times, 150 feet, a tree height, you know, and she's going all the way, and I'm, there's nothing over there, and sure enough, there's a truffle.
And sometimes it is like ever so little.
Oh, some of them
It's
are like
like,
a pea, the
how
size
did
of a
you
pea.
pick up on that? You know, it's just, it blows your head
Yeah.
away. You know, it's like, wow, their noses are pretty strong.
Let's see,
Pretty
what else?
powerful.
How often do you truffle hunt?
We've probably
Not
only
nearly
been
enough.
4 or 5 times this winter. I mean, not that much. Because then you have to do something with all that. You know, I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, when you get home, you gotta dry it off, clean it, dry it again, figure out what are you gonna infuse that night.
Right.
What else do we have?
Yeah, I know, I'm not skiing, I know. Let's see, what else? Russ?
I imagine brushing them off with like a paintbrush or something, but
That'd be good.
Mm-hmm. Or even a child's toothbrush that has really soft bristles. The thing is, if it's wet dirt, it's gonna get plugged up, so you gotta rinse it a lot, tap it out, and try to dry it as much before you start scraping again. The less water you can use, the better the truffle's gonna take the cleaning. Yeah.
So how many people have trees in the, say, 20 to 40 year range? Everybody.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, you can have fun.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, because it's, I mean, we were just shocked. Totally
Oh,
shocked.
the other thing, when the dog does indicate and you end up getting a truffle, you want to make that be the happiest, best thing that ever happened. You know, you have to act it up and really hug them and treat them and let them know that they are doing the right thing. That's a big thing for them, you know. So you really get to know your dogs. That's what's kind of neat about this.